two factors that really impact depression are self-criticism and social support. And so depression, when you feel like you don't have enough social support, that in and of itself is enough to create, especially even in relationships that tend to continue to be volatile and not work out, it could lead to a sense of helplessness and self-criticism, which can really lead to a downward spiral.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, you have your internal and unconscious internal working model all the way through. So you could be going along and doing just fine, but depression looks like just major depression is where then you hit something, and it's a neurochemical soup where then you go down, and that's different. Like a major depression where you're going along and then you go down and then you are able to come back up is one thing. That's one kind of depression.
Can be sometimes primarily chemical.
Right, but what we see a lot is more, you know, the analytic term is
analytic term is analytic. Yeah.
I just lost it. But anyway, there's a depression that it's more of like your personality. It's like Eeyore. And that's not,
yes.
you know, that's not an episode of depression. Anaclitic, that's the word. Thank you. But meaning it's just, it's almost like, it just becomes part of us. And one idea of that is that it is a failure to mourn. So that that's a very old analytic thought, but a failure to mourn meaning, again, you're not quite taking yourself seriously enough about that there is something to grieve. We don't go around making people go into their childhoods if they don't want to, but it's that kind of stuff. If you have depression that's sticking, and I do want to say something about the neurochemical soup if we have time, but if you have it that's sticking outside of that part of it, then you want to look for, you know, there's an old adage of depression as anger turned inward. So, and if you think of it on the polyvagal, like on the neurological ladder, as Anne keeps mentioning, going up or going down, like it's upregulated or downregulated. So depression is going to be where we slow down, and it's more of the parasympathetic system. And a lot of times people don't realize that it literally changes how you see when you're depressed. I mean, you can see it on someone's face right away. And what's happening is they are taking in the world, and it looks different when you're depressed. And then because you're not responding and you don't have as much movement in your face, then the world responds to you, you know, in this more depressing way.
Sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way.
That's right.
Through neuroception, as your face becomes flat, people tend to respond to you in a way that feels and can be perceived as rejecting.
Distancing.
And distancing.
So we only mention it to say that if you're depressed, it's not the time to evaluate your life. Like you're in a hole. And so if you do a 360-degree view, it's going to look really different than when you are not depressed. And then you can evaluate your life. So, and then the other thing is, if you're depressed, get someone that you trust that's close to you to help give you a bigger perspective, and let them do that for you. Should we do do we have time for the neurochemical stuff real fast?
Yeah, sure. We're good.
Go SEED is the acronym. So basically, it's really short, but basically people, what are drugs that we naturally produce, that are neurotransmitters that make us feel good and not good. People are like, why? There must be something wrong with mine because I'm not always happy. They're designed for you not to always be happy, actually. As a matter of fact, if you were always happy, you would be eaten by this tiger or whatever. That you actually have a complex cocktail that is going on at all times that's doing a lot of work for you. And it's not that its only job is to have pleasure. What happens is occasionally when everything comes together in a certain way, when you have a certain amount of gabapentin and a certain amount of serotonin, a certain amount of dopamine, right, that you'll get this, it's more of a moment or a short period of happiness. But each time that your neurotransmitters, we call it squirting, they squirt and then they droop. Because they can't just keep going. They're not supposed to. They're not designed that way. And so where it becomes interesting is where, like, for example, dopamine is the search and find, right?
Motivation.
Right. You want to talk about oxytocin?
No, go ahead. You've got it in the scoop of it.
Okay, I'm sorry. So the idea is that they kind of go against each other. So for example, serotonin is one that if you can boost it by taking risks and like standing up and doing something scary socially. Mm-hmm. But then that threatens oxytocin. Oxytocin is that really good feel good chemical, but that's about bonding and about being within the group. You see what I'm saying? So they kind of go against each other a little bit by design. Mm-hmm. And same with dopamine. Dopamine is that fast, I want the new car. I'm going to get the new car. I'm going to get the new car. I get the new car. I love the new car. And then I don't love the new car. You know what I mean? It droops.
Yep.
So the cocktail that we're looking for is one that, and you talk about this a lot, Anne, about value. Mm-hmm. About so you want a mix of dopamine and oxytocin is the gist of it. Mm-hmm. That's one way of feeling
right.
Your worth and your value.
It's about looking for value rather than happiness. And sometimes when we feel and go through experiences of depression, or especially chronic depression, we feel like what we're shooting for is the opposite of that. And that is this experience of happiness. And then we overproject other people seeming to have it and we don't. And that disparity can be distressing. And I love what Sue says about the cocktail when we realize what really brings our special cocktail that she's mentioning is more a sense of a value in itself and a value in the world. Instead of a focus on the mood, I need to bring my mood up. I am depressed. We need to cheer someone up if they're depressed. Mm-hmm. That actually can put a lot of pressure on somebody whose body actually neurochemically is feeling really low. Mm-hmm. What really needs to happen is they need to feel valued, commitment towards them, or they need to engage. What's really can be for all of us really important that we feel valued. And that cocktail that she's talking about is maintained more in equilibrium with the idea of value, that we're motivated for something we really love, but that really brings a sense of value. A car may bring us a little bit of a dopamine, but it doesn't necessarily add to an ongoing sense of who we are in our relationships. So
I have a hack based on that.
Okay.
Yes. I have a hack for your listeners. That if you are struggling with particularly depression, but actually either, I'm going to say what to do first and then I'll explain. But, and it's related to what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. It's to go and it's basically altruism. Mm-hmm. So you literally, and this has to do with the neurochemical soup. This isn't just go be a good person. So there's two arguments for it. One is that there's a whole cascade of things that just the act of doing, it's active, it's usually social, you gain this, there's a whole bunch of things that go with it. But also, there's this New Yorker cartoon I saw one time where these little girls were having a tea party, and the little caption underneath said it's so hard having the happy childhood that our parents want us to. Or something like that. And they're like, oh. And in that vein, and this is kind of what you were saying, but is that, oh my God, I keep losing my thought. That in that vein, that like we work so hard as parents to try to make our kids happy, and as therapists to try to make our clients happy. And the idea is instead of trying to make them happy, teach them to be productive. And I really mean this, and it's related to the altruism thing, is I don't care if you're a miserable, depressed mess, right? If you can get up and go do something where that at the end of the day, you dug that ditch or you picked up that, whatever the thing is that you did. Again, it's just, okay, you're going to be miserable. We can't help it that you're miserable, but at least you're making the world a better place. And then the side effect of that is that you're more likely to get the neurochemical cocktail about value and that you have a place in the world and that you're worthy because you've just gone and knocked on doors for your political candidate or whatever it is that you've done.
That's an awesome, amazing point. And what I've obviously heard of the connection right between the depression and getting out into the world, doing things, being there for others. But I've never really thought about like the goal might not be right to the flip side of depression is happiness or joy, right? The goal could be is value. And then you're not putting yourself up on the standard of, let me watch all the people on social media who I think have this perfect life and I need to be must be like them. That's just what it made me think of. That's a beautiful way of thinking about it.
Avaya has changed my life.
Avaya has made me the woman I am today.
Avaya is my home.
Avaya is personal freedom.
Avaya is the reason my life continuously improves.
Let everyone in your life know about Avaya.
Everyone needs to know about this amazing company.
Thank you, Avaya, for appearing in my inbox.
What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at Avaya is what the world needs.